Hello, and welcome to this overview on design thinking. My name is Crystal James, and this is for my instructional design class. Design thinking is a concept that has become popular for businesses and educational institutions. It is a philosophy and set of tools to help solve problems creatively. It is a 5-step process with meaningful ideas to solve real problems for a particular group of people. It is learner-focused, which makes it quite interesting, and it seeks to discover the learner's wants and needs and to find solutions and test possibilities. The principles are great for all learners, whether it's K-12, higher education, or even corporate institutions. There are some questions to consider with design thinking. Here are a few. What does the business want or need to achieve? What do learners perceive as valuable? And what can be realistically achieved given the time or technological constraints for the business, the trainers, and the learners? Design thinking, it's a term that has been founded by the architect Peter Rowe in 1987. And since that term has been created, it's been very popular in management, for computers, and for digital designs. Later, it became more popular with a management professor called Roberto Verganti in 2009. And he articulated how designs foster radical change initiated as a result of researchers who are developing, often for their own purposes, unique visions about how meanings could evolve in a life context we want to investigate. And so therefore, Mr. Roberto, he shifts the design thinking process from a radical philosophy to fostering change through design. Now, the 5-step process is quite unique because it goes through the 5 steps, but you can also go back and forth within those 5 steps. The first step we have is empathizing, and then define, ideate, prototype, and testing. Now let's look at each step. With the empathize, the heart of design thinking is such, empathizing. The focus is desiring to understand the people you are trying to solve the problem for. Here are some questions. What do these people do? What do they need? And what are they afraid of? It is a deep, multifaceted level of understanding that helps to solve the learning problem. And it can be conducted through interviews or observations that give an idea of what people really care about. Now, the design thinking process is iterative and it is also flexible, like what I mentioned earlier. You're going through one process, but you can also go back and forth. And it focuses on collaboration between the user and the producer of the product or service. Its prime emphasis is on how ideas are generated based on the thinking, feeling, and behavior of the consumer. The implementation steps begin with the attraction of empathy, followed by defining the problem, summarizing the ideas, creating prototypes, and finally testing. The initial step in design thinking is to gain an empathetic understanding of the problem at hand. This process involves observing, asking questions, and experiencing the customer or subject's experience. Empathy is critical in this process as it allows the planner to make assumptions based on the user or customer's needs. In this stage, information is gathered to form the basis for the next stage to produce a comprehensive understanding of the user or customer's need and problems. Now, the second stage is define. So once we have developed empathy for our users and learners and customers, let's define what the problem is. So find the problem by asking what are their needs, concerns, challenges, insights identified from the interviews or the observations. A good way to do this would be to underline the verbs or activities that people mentioned that would be a problem. And then you formulate a problem statement after analyzing the interview or the observation. So in the defined stage, the information obtained in the emphasis stage is analyzed according to the observation to identify the main problem faced by the user or customer. The third stage is ideation or ideate. Focus on the problem statement and create many ideas that can solve the problem. Now, this is key, creating many ideas, not just one or two or three, but as many as you can think of. This is great for individuals, but it's also great for a team. This is the brainstorming session, coming up with as many solutions as possible. You create a list and you will share that with the population. And then always be open to feedback. The main guide for the planner is to take thinking creatively to identify new solutions to address the problems previously identified and to employ new alternative perspectives to look at the problem. Techniques that can be used in collecting ideas could include brainstorming, writing down opinions, and worst-case scenario forecasting. Brainstorming and worst-case scenario forecasting are often used to stimulate free thinking and broaden the understanding of the problem. It is crucial to identify as many solutions as possible in the early stages of ideation, followed by selecting one or several ideas to undergo testing and determine the best solution that satisfies the customer's needs. So as many ideas as possible. All right, our fourth stage is prototype. Think, how does the idea fit into the lives of the people? After synthesizing ideas, the next stage is to create prototypes. Creating prototypes from ideas is a way to test the product or service that will be sold. Prototypes can be tested with people outside of the planning team. This stage is an experimental phase with the goal of finding the best solution for each that has been identified. So with the prototypes, you're not just developing that just to say, here, we're going to do this. This is the solution, no more change. We develop the prototypes, or you develop the prototypes, in order to be open to feedback and see if it's actually working. And that is when you test it. So test the idea and again, be open to feedback. Repeat until the prototype works or solves the problem. Testing can be in the form of product use or behavioral testing in service sales. This is an iterative process wherein testing results are frequently used to redefine the problem, to once again discover what the user or consumer needs, how they will use it, and how they think, feel, and behave. Back to empathizing, because we want to solve their problem, not just throw them into another problem. So back to what I shared earlier, the process is straightforward, but based on what happens with the brainstorming, the worst case scenarios, the prototypes, and the testing, you can go back and forth because you're trying to find the perfect solution so that the customers or the users are happy. So we would begin with the empathizing stage, and we define the problem, and then we create new ideas, as many as possible. And then we make prototypes and test them. Based on the information you get from the prototypes, you can create new ideas. Based on the information you get from the testing, you can go back to redefining the problem or making new prototypes again. Vallis and Redmond says design thinking is very crucial. They say critical thinking, collaborative, and reflecting skills, such as design thinking, are needed to navigate the increasing complexity and ambiguity of a constantly changing global environment. Design thinking is an awesome way to introduce a concept of how to solve user and customer problems with unique approaches. It is a great opportunity for businesses or educational institutions to come together, think critically, and be creative, and also include different aspects and different areas of the corporation so that everyone can work together collaboratively. I hope you take some time to incorporate design thinking into your program.